So it's coming up to the close of the year. I'm personally wrapping things up and winding down, and it's time to reflect. It's been quite a year for the Green Software Foundation. We've had a big transition, which you'll be hearing more about in the new year, or maybe you heard something about it already. When we first formed, the world was very different. And we needed to hold space for a lot more activities, a lot more different types of things, because at the time there weren't other organizations creating space for that work. There wasn't a lot of events happening in this space. There wasn't a huge amount of open source work. There was great work happening. There wasn't a huge amount of open source work happening in the space. So we needed to be a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But what we are at our core is actually a standards body. We are an organization, we are a set of bylaws to bring organizations and people together and through consensus develop standards. That's what we are. That's what we're great at. But fast forward to now, and what a great place to see. We've got from an events place, we've got this Green AO Global Series. It was so exciting to see the CNCF Sustainability Week happening just this last couple of months, and we also ran the GSF Global Summit again with about 11 countries around the world. And from an open source perspective, there's a wonderful piece of work from Paul Young and the team at GitHub, where they published and they did the research and published a large list of green software projects. And they just demonstrated that there's a vibrant ecosystem out there. And I think you're going to see a lot more from Paul and GitHub to help support those people moving forward. So there's kind of like less need for us to create a space for that area. So where we're focusing into now is standards. So I describe ourselves as now as a standards first organization. That's not to say that other work isn't important. We still will be working on it, but we're going to lean and lead forward with our standards work. And over the last year, we've been developing our standards engine to really fine tune it. And starting from next year, you're going to see a real exploration of standards work in this space. You're going to see the early start of next year, Sci for AI. So how do we apply the Sci specification to the AI domain, but provide enough detail to really answer all the questions people have in their heads about how to actually compute AI in a way that's comparable and measuring and drives the kind of behavior change that we know should be driven. You're going to see, there's also talk about Sci for Web and Sci for Blockchain and a whole bunch of Sci for X. You're going to see a lot of that coming in up next year, and hopefully by the end of it, it's going to mean you're going to have a lot more clarity about how to actually measure a lot of different types of application, a lot of different domains. We're going to see a lot more workshops from the Green Software Foundation. These are things where we just bring experts around the table to help work through differences and through consensus develop an idea, a position, a standard, anything. We're going to be launching a number of new committees. We launched the Green AI Committee recently, and we're going to see a number of other committees launched from the Green Software Foundation. And our committees are one of the vehicles we have for actually getting standards work adopted in the ecosystem. Because as hard as it is to get a whole bunch of people to sit down around a table to agree on a standard, it's 100 times harder to get that standard adopted. So there's a huge journey ahead of us to actually operationalize these standards, to actually drive the behavior change that we need to drive. We had an exciting merge with the SSIA, the Scalable and Sustainable Infrastructure Alliance, with added about 12 new members to the foundation. They're all going to be creating and forming what's called a hardware standards working group, and we'll be joined by many other existing members of the GSF in that hardware standards working group, and they're going to be exploring standards that are required in the infrastructure ecosystem to facilitate a lot of these efficiencies and these carbon reductions that we need to have from an end-to-end perspective. And that's so important. It's become so clear to me now that to really realize the efficiencies, we need to realize the silos have got to be broken, and and it's software's responsibility just as much as it is the cooling operator's responsibility to reduce the emissions end to end. And if we can just all start speaking together, it seems that there's incredible efficiencies available on the table for us. On outside of that, we're also going to be investing a lot more into our Champions program. We launched it 2 years ago, but unfortunately, we didn't have the resources, I think, to really help grow it to where we wanted to grow it. But moving into the new year, we now have the resources. So expect some changes in the Champions, and to the existing Champions, thank you so much for being patient with us. Hopefully, and our plan is to be able to support you a lot more in the coming year. And on a very personal level, I'm committing to speak more openly about my beliefs, I suppose, is another way of is the way of putting it. I'm quite rare. I'm not the only one. I've met a few, but I'm quite rare in this ecosystem in that I'm here because of spiritual beliefs, 100%. I'm not here based off of fear at all. It gives me a warm feeling rather than anything else. And I've started to meet others in the space who are the same as me, and I've decided I'm going to talk more openly about it, more openly about my relationship between spirituality and sustainability, because I think they are intricately connected. And if I can maybe inspire some other people to start thinking about the space the way I think about the space, that would make me extremely happy. And that's something coming very personal for my personal website. That'll be an Asim only thing, not an Asim as an ED of the GSF thing. So as I look back, I see many of us who've worked tirelessly to get to this point. And it feels like a new beginning. In fact, all these plans, everything I just described to you, we actually had a document called GSF 2.0. For us, this is kind of a pivot point for the Green Software Foundation. It's an evolution driven by the fact that the ecosystem has grown and thrived, and how can we best support that ecosystem moving forward. So it feels like a new beginning to me and to a lot of other people in the foundation. But still supported by our core values of openness, fairness, collaboration. So here it is. Thank you to everyone who's rallied around us. I hope you will embark with us on this journey. Cheers to the new year and to new beginnings.